Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks, and you are checking out a production tip and trick tutorial video on ADSR. So in this video, I'm going to show you a few different techniques or methods you can use to improve the drum groove of your trap beats. Whether it's hip-hop trap or even EDM trap, future-based dubstep, these ideas will be applicable. So let's check out this demo. So the first technique you can use to spice up your actual beats is to layer your sounds, but not from the perspective of layering to create a brand new sound and reinvent the wheel, but just to add a nice texture. Hopefully it adds a nice texture as well as helps it kind of stick out in the mix. And that's what I did with the kick. So the kick here is a kind of a bread and butter type hip hop trap kick. I layered it with actually the metronome from Logic. I just sampled it. Throw on some bit crusher, some EQ. Now that does a few things. Two things, not a few. But first, it adds a nice little texture with the kick. It's kind of like a kick tick, an extended kick tick, and it also helps it stick out in the mix a little bit more. So it adds value, right? Now the snare, I layered it's a nice sounding hip hop snare as well. A little bit of reverb, it works. I layered in a kind of a tail of a Foley sound just to make it a little bit more unique. Now again, you're still going to be able to completely hear the original snare. It's not going to change that sound, but it adds a nice texture. All right, so that is the first tip and trick here. Layering your sounds to create a more interesting, unique sonic character or texture. All right, the second thing we're going to be looking at is rolls, both hi-hat and snare rolls. Now, if you guys struggle with getting hi-hat rolls, or you guys don't do them that much, you definitely should. You definitely shouldn't be struggling because they're quite easy and fun to do. Every DAW's got their own little way of handling it, but there's some really creative tools out there to get some interesting rolls. So if you guys don't know what a hi-hat roll is, you can think of it as just any deviation from the main rhythm of your hi-hat section or groove, right? So if we solo the MIDI here of these drums, if I start out with this kind of a quarter note vibe, it gets really boring, A. B, a rapper is going to be in that pocket. If you did that for 4 bars, 8 bars, it would just get really boring, right? So you could start out with that quarter note vibe for sure, and then you could go into a hi-hat roll. And then coming out of the hi-hat roll, you can actually, it's a good time to change up your rhythm. So check this out. We're going to put a roll from this bar to the start of bar 4. And to do that, I'm going to choose, we'll do a 30-second note time quantize, and I'm going to choose Logic's brush tool. And now I can just simply go like that, and it's going to add in a hi-hat roll. So now we're going to go from this quarter note value to this 30-second note roll, and then we could go back to the quarter note value, or we could actually change it up and kind of hit a 8th note value. Right, so we could just do a simple kind of an 8th note section. Right, and now we can go into another roll. We can go back to just the basic quarter note vibe. There's a lot you can do, but varying your rhythm in their hi-hats and we're going to look at snares and adding in rolls can really spice up any type of drum groove, especially for a genre like trap. So if we go down to the actual audio here, which are the purple tracks, I have separated the some of the tracks that are panned out left and right, which we're going to talk about next, which is stereo width. But these rolls, you can see, right? That's a simple little roll. That's barely a roll, I guess. And then I'm changing up rhythmic values. This goes to almost a triplet vibe right there. Right? So we go from a quarter note, a little bit of a roll in there, to kind of a triplet feel. That adds a nice subtle variance to the actual hi-hat, and it will do something for the rapper as well, your vocalist. They'll hit different pockets. It'll actually kind of dictate their flow a little bit. All right, now you can do that with snares as well. This green track right above this purple track, I have some snare rolls, and you can use these as transitions into different bars, different sections of the track. So this is a quite basic pitched up snare roll. The only interesting thing I did was I moved the pan around with some automation, so it moves around in your ear. And that's a nice segue into the third tip and trick to improve your beats, your trap beats, is stereo width, panning. I've seen a lot of people, whether it's people sending me tracks for critiquing or mixing, and then also just tutorial videos where they say, they just say, this is how every trap beat's made. It's a kick, snare, and a closed hi-hat, and they don't pan anything out. Well, you can add a nice kind of a three-dimensional depth to your hi-hats and your beat, your groove, by just doing some subtle panning. So what I've done is I've broken up the track into a few different sections. We have the closed hi-hat right here. That's up the middle. I took out the rolls, and I'm actually panning some of the rolls out left and right with the Haas effect on it to widen it. So, right, it's really simple. Now, there's also this open hi-hat hit that we hear. There's two of them. The ch-ch. Now, one's panned out left, one's panned out right. And if we solo that with the drums here, it's not distracting. It's just you have a nice texture out left and right, and it happens to be the open hi-hat. So that's one thing you can do. Now, the kind of a bonus thing here that we're going to talk about is, outside of creating stereo width, is pitching things up and down, like your snares and your hi-hats. So the second 4 bars of this 8, I actually changed up the hi-hat progression. You can see that I've muted this one, and I've chopped up the hi-hats, the closed hi-hats. What I've done is I've actually pitched the first one down. This right here is actually a different pitch than this. It's 5 semitones below. Check it out. Right? So this plays into the idea of it's panned. I've panned this out left and right, but I've also changed the pitch. So check this out. When we actually... right? Changed up the rhythm. This kind of hits all 3 points that we're talking about with the hi-hats. I've changed up the rhythm, different than the beginning. I've changed up the width. It's panned out left and right. Well, panned out to the left. And it is pitched down. And I have the rolls, and I have the variation. Now, this might be an extreme example. I might not, do this as much as I'm doing it in this example if this were an actual track, but this idea for sure has come into use in my own productions before. Definitely worth checking out and messing around with if you never have. All right, guys, that sums up our look at a few different ways in which you can just spice up your drum groove. You can make it more interesting and more unique, especially in genres like hip-hop and trap. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm Echo Soundworks. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.